Hello, I'm back. Penny here with a little bit of a collection review, update, discussion, if you will. Since we have our pieces, I figured I would make a couple videos before we return them, and just release these videos kind of gradually. So here is my collection as it stands. I'm wearing my wife's OP39 since my watches are all right here. I do have like a couple SKXs and a Hamilton. If you haven't heard me talk about it on my State of the Collection, we usually give some of our affordable watches away, like start to thin that out. So probably I'll end up keeping one SKX, and most of the other affordables will go on to family members or just young enthusiasts in our lives. So this is the mainstay of my collection, though. It's currently 7 pieces. And they're all really similar. I mean, because they're all sports watches. But I really like them. I feel really grateful to have acquired this collection. I've only been collecting for around 3 to 4 years. I think 3.5. I'm at the 3.5 mark. And it's been fast. What a ride. Like, I didn't have any of these pieces 3.5 years ago. The Speedy was my first, and it will always be my favorite. And definitely the one that I have the most sentimental feelings about. And I've worn the Speedy. I had a chance to be in a documentary. Believe it or not, your girl is in a documentary. And I have had a couple of really kind of high profile professional events happen. And even though I had other watches, like especially the BLNR that was kind of like dressier maybe, I still wore the Speedy. The Speedy Professional marks a really significant professional accomplishment. And even though I sold it originally, my original one, I ended up rebuying it like 3 weeks later, and it'll never leave. I have a lot of sentimental attachments to it, and it just kind of symbolizes professional stuff for me. So the Explorer 2 was the first Rolex that I bought. And I bought it pre-owned, really good price. My goodness, now especially given the market, I bought it in person at a pre-owned watch shop. It's in pretty good shape. I don't always love this bracelet. Sometimes I like it and I feel like it fits perfectly. It does actually fit me perfectly. It fits me similar to the OP39, honestly, a little bit bigger, but this is a perfectly fit. It fits me perfectly, probably better than any watch that I have. And I'll obviously keep this forever too. I have a lot of travel memories with this watch because as a GMT watch, I tend to wear it pre-COVID times, I wore it all over the world, and lots of memories wearing this watch. I feel really safe traveling with that as a Rolex as opposed to maybe some of these other ones. The Milgauss, all about the Milgauss because you've heard my recent videos or you've heard my recent stories and seen my recent videos about the Milgauss. Not leaving. Thrice owned. This is actually the third Milgauss that I've purchased. So it's got to be third time's the charm. I'm starting to think of this as my lucky watch because of the green crystal, and it's March, and St. Patty's Day is next week, St. Patrick's Day. So it kind of, maybe I'll associate it to spring. I don't know. I did have a really significant trip with my original Milgauss that whenever I think back on that trip, I remember the Milgauss. So for me, watches and memories are really connected. They just kind of are a marker of certain occasions. And I hope that I'm going to be traveling soon for the first time in a year on a short little trip. More on that soon. If I do it, I'm going to take the Milgauss. And BLNR, what can I say? It was my dream piece. I wanted a GMT, even though I had the Polar, and I was so surprised. This really kind of like began the relationship with my Rolex AD, as it was the first watch that I bought for myself from him. I actually bought the OP39 from him from my spouse, but he had already promised me the BLNR. He said, it's a long story. I'll maybe make a video, about how I came to get the BLNR retail. It's a long story. But anyway, I love this watch. It's beautiful. I've worn it for almost 3 months straight, like to test my stamina with watch wearing. And it nearly broke me. That was a long time wearing one watch. But so I haven't really worn it since. I wore it last August, starting in August through early fall, through fall. And it is now spring, and I'll probably wear this again. I usually wear this around the time I have a spring birthday, and I usually wear this on my birthday, but this year I bought this watch on my birthday. Incidentally, these 3 watches were also all birthday watches, even though this one came early. So, maybe that's a tradition now in our household that I'm buying myself a birthday watch. I don't know. Hopefully I have a lot more birthdays ahead, and this is getting expensive to buy watches for my birthday. So next is the Sub. Actually got that this year, you all know, and I got it in January, the Sub No Date, or just a Submariner, and it's my first Submariner, and I love it. It's cool. It does feel a little bit beefy on me, a little bit bulky maybe, but not nearly as much as the previous generation, because it's not a square. And I could see the appeal. I never really understood why people love the Submariner so much, because for me, for Rolex, I am a GMT girl all the way. I love the GMT. That's my favorite style of Rolex, are the GMT models. But the Sub just always seemed a little bit boring compared to the GMTs. And you can't really get more boring than this, but it's such a good boring. It's like the Speedmaster. As I have said before, I feel like this is a great 2-piece collection if you like sporty watches. And yeah, I really love it. I loved it a lot when I first bought it. It kind of tempered a little bit, and I haven't worn it. My spouse has actually been wearing it a little bit. And it is very, people say that this is a man's watch. It really is subjective, guys. Like, yes, it does look big on us, but not too bad. I mean, it fits on my wrist, it's all subjective. Like, what do you like seeing on your wrist? And this is a sort of a side thing, is that, let's see. So yeah, I mean, I have a 6 3/4 wrist. It's not a dainty wrist at all. So I feel like I can pull this off just fine. I don't feel, it's not bad. It fits great. But it just really depends on what you like seeing on your wrist. And some women who wear very feminine clothes and dresses and, have nail polish, you see, I have none of that over here, because your girl is a tomboy and always has been. So it's not my style to dress that way, but I've seen women wear Submariners who do dress that way, and it looks great. It just looks like jewelry, and I know men don't like that word, jewelry, but it does. You can wear these watches as kind of a jewelry accessory and do just fine. And so even if it's oversized, the oversized look is kind of a style. So yeah, I think that, to each his or her own. You can pull off whatever you're really interested in pulling off. Then there's the IWC La Petite Prince, my only blue watch, which I do like. And I almost sold this watch several times, but it kind of is my pandemic watch. I bought it right before the pandemic started last year, obviously not knowing what we were about to head into. And then I have really been attached to it during this whole year, where we have been really quarantined. Like, I haven't gone a darn single place in the year. And so when I look at it, it just sort of reminds me of the time that was, the year that we've had. It's still somewhat on the chopping block, maybe. I'm going to just talk about that in a second. And then there's a Tudor Black Bay 58. Perfect sizing. Again, it's just all depends on what you really like to see on your wrist, what you like in terms of size. And in terms of size, this is great. It's awesome. And what I really like about this is the gilt dial, because I like that it's almost like a two-tone watch. And so, yeah, this, whenever it's not suitable to be wearing a Rolex, I think the Tudor is a good option. So for me, and it's a good size again. So now I just want to think about what's next, guys. It's kind of hard. I really feel like I'm in a place where I need to just chill out, Penny, right? Chill out and enjoy this collection, because I really feel honored and just grateful to have it and have formed the relationships to get some of these pieces. And it's kind of a wow. Like, I never have my collection all at once at home. So I'm really just kind of taking in like the actual collection and what I'm doing here, reflecting on what redundancy or like, what is next. We love to talk about those things as watch collectors, I think, like the next steps, next moves, should we downsize, etc. I've always said that I have the keeper's mentality for watch collecting, and I'm trying to stick to it. What I do know is that I'm not selling any Rolex. That is out of the box, out of the question, never going to happen. And I know you should never say never, in case, something does come up, but it's not my goal. It is my goal to never sell Rolex, just because there's so much drama and trauma trying to regain them or rebuy them if you decide you want them back. And I like them. Rolex is my favorite brand. I'm just coming out right now to you here today as a Rolex lover. Hi, my name is Penny, and I'm a Rolex lover. And I know in today's culture and climate, like, there's a lot of blowback that you can get from being a Rolex lover, because it feels like you're a superficial collector. Whatever, that's not my case. I just think these are so beautiful. And what I love about Rolex, and I've always said, is I love that they're elegant. They actually are kind of elegant looking in terms of their style and design. They do put some effort into the details. It's not high horology, but they put some effort into it. And then at the same time, they're rugged. You can scratch them up. You can rumble and tumble and roll around with the dogs and ride your bike. Or I'm not even that active. I'm a middle-aged woman, for crying out loud. But, your day-to-day life, you don't have to worry about banging about a Rolex and doing anything to it. It's so durable. So I really love that balance of durability and design, some style. And if you ever want to say Rolex is boring, just think of the Milgauss. It's not boring. This watch is so weird, and unusual and good looking at the same time, and still durable. It's got the curves and the green glass. So Rolex is definitely my favorite brand. I'm kind of addicted to them. I want more and more Rolex, not a ton more, but at least in the near future and far future, I could see a few more pieces. The problem is that I like to wear my watches for long periods of time. I put them all away in storage and I wear one piece. And then if you do that, you really don't get around to wearing the other pieces for quite a while. So like I said, I haven't worn this since maybe October, and it's March. That's a long stretch to not be wearing a watch that I like. I might shorten my rotations down to 1 or 2 weeks again, because I was doing that. A month is just about as much time in rotation that I can handle. And then, if there's any fat or sort of any areas to cut here to make room for something else, or to just so it's a little bit more manageable, the only piece I would sell out of all of these is this, and I don't really want to sell this, but it's the one kind of flexible spot where I could say, okay, I don't have to have this, but like these, the Speedy, the Rolexes, and even the Tudor kind of, I'm attached to it even more than this. These are not going anywhere. So this is kind of the flex position that maybe this will go. I'm always saying I might sell the IWC. What I like about the IWC in this collection is that it is different from Tudor and Rolex, and the Speedy. It is a pilot's watch. It has numerals on the dial, it has that sunburst blue. It's a totally different brand, obviously. It has a cool bracelet and a cool micro adjustment. And when I got the IWC, it really felt like I was doing something a little bit different than what I like. And so that was exciting. But I don't know. It might go because, like I said, it's hard to rotate through everything. I do have aspirations to add a few more pieces. So let's talk about that for a second. So without saying too much, let me think. I have a promotion on the horizon. I have two potentially. Lord willing, I have two promotions that will come to fruition. One is pretty much a done deal. I've already been offered it, and so I'm probably going to celebrate that with a watch, but not immediately. Hopefully, in the next year. take 12 months, to save up again, because I've obviously depleted my watch funds, folks, for, getting the Milgauss and getting the Sub back to back. That's a wrap. My wife has aspirations. She wants a bathroom. We have to add a guest bathroom to our house. Like, we have other things that we need to do instead of buying watches. I understand. The kid in me wants to just keep buying watches because they're so good. Ooh. But, I have adult responsibilities to take care of. So I think I want to be able to celebrate, honor, the next milestone in my career by getting a cool watch, an important, kind of significant or special watch, we'll say. And I'm going to be talking to some ADs soon. One is my Rolex guy who, boom, he knew about this promotion coming up on the horizon. So he's actually pretty happy about it, folks. And recently I just talked to him on the phone, not about Rolex. He called me out of the blue. I was driving. It was during the Milgauss craze. And when I saw his number on my caller ID, I was like, oh my gosh, please don't have another Milgauss. Like, I thought the other AD was coming up with the Milgauss too. But no, he really wanted to ask me some questions because of the career that I'm in, and how it relates to one of his family members. And so we just talked, and I it was great to help him out. And in that conversation, I really got the feeling that I'm going to be able to get a really special Rolex. Like, it's not, I know everybody will say, hey, Penny, you're dreaming. You couldn't even get a Kermit. Guys, it's a wrap. I'm going to be able to get I'm going to be able to ask for a special piece, and I'm just going to have to lay out the time frame with him of when, obviously I would like to wait a little bit later than immediately, but I'm going to talk to him about it. So I have that plan coming up to go chat about a special piece with Rolex. And then also, here's another thing that's happened recently is I have a connection at AP. I really didn't ever think about, I like the Royal Oak, but I never seriously thought about AP because it just seemed like so hard. You have to go to a boutique. There's years long waiting lists. They're expensive and expensive to service. But long story short is I have a pretty good connection at AP suddenly, and it's not going to be impossible for me to get a piece through them, in the next little stint of time here. So let's talk about what might happen with the collection. I really want your feedback to see what you guys think, because I don't know what next moves to make. I'm kind of on the fence in terms of strategy. You see what my collection looks like, what makes sense to kind of add or subtract from this. Again, I'm pretty committed to not selling any of these pieces. I kind of thought about the Tudor, like, after this conversation with AP, I was really in a tizzy of oh my gosh, this could happen really soon. What would I sell? Because I got to clear some capital. And I was like, sell the lowest tier 2 and keep this and then add from there. But I like the idea of having kind of a durable watch that is still really nice, that is not quite Rolex. So the Tudor can't go. But IWC might go. That might go into the bathroom, honestly, folks, that we need to add to our house. So here's the contenders. There's 4 contenders. What should I try to plan for, strategize for over the next year or more? But I don't think it's going to actually take that long, which is going to present a good problem probably. But here you go. Royal Oak. So this is the 15450. I like it in white. Obviously, I would take blue because blue is super hot. I like it in all the colors, honestly. Doesn't it come in gray? And I wonder if it comes in black. I don't know if I've seen it in black in this size. This is the 37 millimeter, guys. So I have never even seen this watch. I'm hopefully going to be seeing it soon, later next week in person, just to get a feel for it and see it on my wrist. But from pictures, from videos, from folklore, I would think that this is the one for me. It's a little bit under the radar in terms of hype because of its 37 millimeter size. That size is going to fit me fine. It'll be a dressier piece, obviously. I think only downside to Royal Oak, this Royal Oak in general, is the entry point. It's not a bad entry point, I guess, considering how expensive these watches are anyway. But I think it's around 20K, maybe 21 right now retail. It's a lot of freaking money. And I would love for this one, if that's the case, I would love to save for this at least a year to a year and a half even, to be able to just hold off. Even if I can get it sooner, The problem with AP and not getting it is that the prices are always creeping up. Like they tend to increase their prices fairly often. So that's just something to think about. I don't know if I'm ready for a Royal Oak, to be honest, but I think that at some point it might happen. And if you had asked me this like a couple months ago, I would have been like, absolutely not. But now, because I have this connection and this great contact, and the collection has changed a little bit, I am kind of craving something slightly more dressy or slightly more fancy. I just don't know how often I wear this and where, but here's a possibility. Number one is a Royal Oak 15450. Number two, your girl likes GMTs, okay? This puts a smile on my face. I'm addicted to Rolex, and so I don't have any gold, and I'm not ready for an all gold piece. If that ever happens, it's just going to be one piece at some point, and I don't know, maybe in rose gold, maybe in yellow. I like yellow gold too, but this is the watch I like a lot right now as far as Rolex is concerned. I think it's beautiful. I have not seen it in person, so I'm going to try to get to see it in person. If my AD gets one, I'm going to ask him to just give me a text so I can come see it, send me a text. But I think that this would add some more color to my collection, and obviously a little bit of precious metal with the rose gold. So those are the two so far. What about the Royal Oak? What about this as a special piece over the next year or so? Then your girl wants a Daytona. I have made no qualms about it to my AD from day one. I asked him, is it possible for me to get a Daytona? And he said, it is not impossible. And I took that as a yes. And now that our relationship is a little bit even more social than just watches, I really don't think it's impossible at all. I'm going to ask him directly, just like I asked him about the Kermit. And, we'll see what he says. I want some kind of Daytona. So would you take a Daytona if you could get it? I want a stainless steel, obviously, first, just because of the price range. But if you could take a Daytona at retail, would you take that over this or over this? Should I go for that? Because I can't get all of these. I could get one, maybe, and I'll be patient because I'm trying to learn patience. So it would be boom, boom, or boom. Okay. Or, yes, I still have a soft spot for the Kermit. I know it's going in the opposite direction in terms of cost because this is the cheapest one, but I still want some green Kermit. I love green, and I wanted that Kermit. Yes, I would have a 41 sub, and the Kermit would be another 41 sub. But it's a hot piece right now, so I have to put it in this category because it's not necessarily easy to get. And he told me just a couple months ago in so many words that I wasn't going to get a Kermit. I think that has changed, folks. I'll let you know. But I told him I'm coming to talk to him about getting a special piece, and he was like, let's do it. So we'll see. So those are the four: Kermit, Daytona, Root Beer, or a Royal Oak. And then finally, I do have a soft spot for wanting a Pepsi. I feel like a Pepsi would go really well with this collection. It adds more color, a little bit of change, a little bit of diversity in terms of what I have. But it's a GMT, which I love. The only downside to getting a vintage Pepsi is that this is the downside, guys. This is the downside, okay? I hate the older bracelets. Hate is maybe a strong word, but I really don't like them. That's the least favorite thing about this watch is sometimes I have it on and I just get irritated with this bracelet. Not because of how it fits, just because of how it feels. And then I'll end up taking it off the bracelet and putting it on something else. So I wonder if I would feel just as irritated with the Pepsi. It's a very similar bracelet. If not the same, it's probably the same vintage one. But I like the colors of this better than the new Pepsi. Plus with this, I really don't want two modern GMTs that are on Jubilees. So the vintage Pepsi kind of works in my mind. Now, I would get this in person from a reseller or like a pre-owned watch store. I'll probably have him source it for me through his connections. And so I'm not buying Rolex online anymore. And used, new, whatever, that's just not going to happen. So I would have to probably pay a little bit more getting it that way. So I think in terms of price, this is in the range of, it's more than that. And in the range of some of these other pieces like Daytona at retail or it's cheaper than these two. So yeah, that's what I'm considering for my next steps. But again, I'm hoping it's at least a year out. That would be great. If I get the call sooner for one of these pieces, I would probably have to make it happen. Just move some money around and just scramble and do it, because they won't come around all the time. Like, come on, if I got a call saying, hey, I have a Daytona, or do you want it, I'm gonna do what I gotta do to go and get that watch, and then I'm in a permanent timeout. Well, I'm in a long-term timeout from buying watches. But I think I'm gonna have those conversations, and I'll get a better feel for what's possible. But what do you guys think? What would you suggest for where I am in my collecting and what I like? I love the durability of the sports watches. I am craving going in the direction of a little more color or a little more style, and I probably will let this go, even though I really, really like it and it gives me something different. It's just that, at that point, I'm making room for a few more pieces eventually, or one more piece. 7 is a lot, guys. Like, 6 is good, 5 is good. Like, this is that. If I could just really sell these 2 pieces and just get them out of the way and not change anything, like for a year, if I just worked with this, I feel like that is a pretty darn good, that's a collection that makes me pretty happy. And in terms of rotating, this is easy to do. So, maybe I've answered my own question of maybe the Tudor will be on a chopping block. I just am really attached to it. I really think it's a sweet watch. And same here, but this one I'm more ready to let go after a year than this. So yeah, I guess I don't really have the keeper's mentality anymore. There's a lot of exceptions to that, and I would say I'm never selling Rolex, but it's not as easy as saying I have a keeper's mentality, because you do get to a point where you have too many watches for comfort and too much money, and so you have to really feel like you love the watch for the money that you have invested in it, I think. And like I said, my wife wants a bathroom. I want more watches. So something's got to give. I got to let go and quit hoarding watches and acquiring them. We have a fund for our house stuff too, but it would be faster and easier to stop buying and then sell a few pieces and put it into the bathroom. And then I can, in peace, go ahead and make the charge toward my special watch that will probably commemorate a couple of professional accomplishments. Long-winded way, folks, of saying, let me know what you think. Thanks for riding this on this journey with me and listening to me ramble about my collection. Which watch would you add to this collection, given what I mentioned? I don't really like dressy pieces. I have an appreciation for Cartier. I really like the Santos. I don't like tank watches. I don't like the rectangle look on my wrist. My wife has a tank Longines dress watch that is pretty awesome, but I don't love wearing it. And so I know people might say, hey, get a dress watch, get a JLC, get a Cartier. Those don't really do it for me, folks. Like, the feeling that I have and the excitement I have when I look in the watch roll and I pull out one of these watches is really unmatched. And I have to have that special feeling, if I'm going to have all that money in a piece and add it to the collection. So a dress watch really doesn't appeal, but, the Royal Oak is dressy. So it's just, I'm not even sure on an everyday basis that I would actually want to wear it. I don't know, folks. Let me know what you think. Thanks for listening. Peace.